Welcome to Tile Mart's Part 2 on Grout episode. I'm Julie Ireland, a design architect and the founder of Home Renovation School. Today, we're going to have some DIY fun and teach you how to grout tile with both blended and contrasting grout. Joining me today is a very special guest, IANO'CONNOR.
How are you doing?
I'm good. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Custom Building Products.
So I am a product manager. I cover our grout, our waterproofing, and our care lines. Prior to that, I was a scientist for Custom Building Products, developing grout specifically.
A scientist. And we have a scientist teaching us how to grout. How cool is that? Before we get started grouting here, we need to obviously have supplies. What is the list of supplies that we need? We have a lot of stuff on the table here.
We have several sponges right here. They're all a little bit different. They function a little differently. What I'm looking for is something that can really resist the force of my hand as I'm going to use this to clean up our grout. There's also a scrub sponge, just in case you go a little too far, you leave your grout on your face of your tile too long, you can come back and still be able to scrub that off.
This is a 2-in-1 sponge, folks. I kind of like this one.
Next, we have our margin trowel. So this is a mixing tool, okay, for hand mixing your powder and your water for cement grouts. It's also useful for placing grout as you go through your project and you install it. We also have, most importantly, a grout float. That'll help you to actually compress and push that grout into those grout joints.
And then we need grout.
You do need grout.
What color are we going to do?
So I think today we're going to look at Cape Gray.
So Cape Gray is this color right here. So you can see we're going to do a contrasting grout. And we're going to actually show you how to do that. Now tell us a little bit about the consistency. How do you know how much grout to actually put in the bucket?
So what we're looking for is a peanut butter consistency. You don't want it too loose and sloppy and runny.
Right.
You don't want it too stiff and dry because that becomes very challenging to actually compress and get into your grout joint.
Okay.
All grouts have specified amounts of water versus how much powder is mixed together. This particular grout comes in a 25-pound bag. It's a sanded grout. And for each 25-pound bag, we're talking about adding 2 quarts of water, roughly, okay? Plus or minus, there's a little leeway.
Love it. All right, let's get grouting.
I'm gonna go ahead and add our water to our powdered grout. Okay, I'm gonna start with a portion of this.
Okay.
Take my margin trowel and go ahead and start mixing this together. Want to make sure that I mix it completely and don't leave any dry bits.
Okay.
Okay, so you see it's too stiff, not enough water there yet.
Need a little water.
Need some more water.
Peanut butter. Peanut butter.
And as we go and mix, what we're going to see is that it's going to come together quickly and you can easily overshoot. So you don't want to add too much water in there.
Right. It's kind of like making cookie dough.
Yep.
Like,
so I say I'm a scientist, but at the end of the day, I play with mud and paste.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're right about at that peanut butter consistency.
Yeah.
Right? What we're going to be doing next is actually, we're going to let it sit. We're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. It has to slake.
Slake?
It's an invented term by our industry.
Okay.
Today we're going to pretend that we allow this to slake and sit for 5 minutes.
Okay.
But we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and get this out of this pail and we're going to go ahead and spread this grout onto this tile board. Okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of grout.
Awesome.
Place it. All right.
Love it.
Take my grout float. We don't want our grout float to be vertical because it's not really going to push anything into the joints. We actually want to have it down at an angle, not super low where you're just spreading the surface of the tile, but you actually have it compressed down at a nice, comfortable 45-degree angle. So I'm going to push a little grout in, okay, and keep working that. And so you can use that long side of the float, or alternatively, you can actually use the end of that grout float too.
Okay.
Okay. And go ahead and get into all the edges and details. This is kind of an interesting float in that it has a square edge. You can get really close, tight into corners, or it has a rounded edge, right? So you have a little bit of flexibility on how you use this tool, okay? So we're gonna try to strike the surface of that tile panel.
Okay.
Okay, and what I mean by that is I'm going to now lift my grout float up and pull that across so it cleans and takes off the majority of that grout, okay?
Yep.
Do the same thing here. We're trying to leave our grout joints full with grout, right? So these are relatively full and even, okay? And at this point, we're gonna wait again.
Okay.
So cement grout requires time for it to hydrate, for all the chemicals, the polymers, the cellulose, there's different materials, and they have to activate in that water, okay? That's part of that slaking process that I talked about. we'll imagine that we've let this sit for 10 to 20 minutes typically. It depends on how humid the environment is. I'm gonna just gently dab my finger on the surface of that grout, and it still is transferring to my fingertip. And so it's not quite ready, but we're gonna go ahead and move on as though it is.
Okay, perfect.
All right. A little water bucket here with me. All right, and then I have my hydro sponge. This is actually my preferred version of this. All right, so I'm gonna have just a little bit of water in this sponge. We don't want it totally sopping wet, but just, you know, there's a little bit of weight in there.
Oh yeah,
right? Can you feel that?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just moderate, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're going to work in circular motions, trying to keep our sponge as flat as possible on the surface of that tile. And so while we're doing this, we're trying to make sure that we remove a little bit of grout from those grout joints.
Right.
Okay, as well as taking it off of the face of the tile. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for exactly where the edge of the tile is and bringing that down to something that's going to leave a very consistent.
Nice and level,
Yep,
right.
nice and level. So it's very thick right here, and it's a little thin right here, right? So we want to work on this little section, okay?
Got it.
And still trying to work in circular motions as best we can. And I'm bringing that down to the edge of the tile, so I have a nice, consistent finish.
This is like art.
It is.
It's kind of therapeutic in a way, I think.
And then once you've attained that, you have a nice, smooth and consistent edge of your tile.
Right.
You're going to get a clean sponge and pass that across diagonally again.
I love it.
With as much force as you can, really. You're trying to compress that sponge against the surface of that tile.
Right.
And pull that excess off.
Wow, that's looking pretty good.
So what's going to be left here is there's going to be a little tiny film of cement and the other dust that's in here. And that can just be pulled off once it's dry with just a cheesecloth or microfiber towel or something like that. We don't need to do any cleaning or use any products, but it just needs to be effectively dry buffed to finish it.
That's awesome.
That's it.
That is awesome. I do have a couple pre-grouted samples just to show you guys. So this is obviously grout that blends, and we are doing a contrasting grout. Here is one, just so you can kind of see that we've taken a white tile and grouted with black. You guys have seen me do this in my own design. When you use a contrasting grout, the tile really pops. And other times you want it to blend like this, especially like when you're using large format tile, you want it to blend and look like one piece.
In the field, we'll see a lot of detail areas will have contrasting colors, whereas your large spans, a broad room, is going to have a more muted or similar tone within that tile.
Yeah, exactly. Ian, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to dive deeper into grout in our next 2 grout episodes, so stay connected. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe for more design and DIY tips to help guide you on all of your design and build projects. Bye for now.